The Monday, April 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For this meeting, there is a quorum of the council present. Items 2 and 3, Mr. Gene Anderson will deliver the invocation. United States Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Pankich. Please rise.
May we pray. Heavenly Father, we're grateful as always for all that you do for us. And Father, with all the trouble that's in the world today, we thank you for letting us live here in America. And we pray for leaders around the world, whether they be national, state, or local, that you would help them to do their jobs well, for they all play a certain part. And we ask for our council tonight that you would bless them and give them wisdom and understanding. For these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 4, the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than refer the matter to a future agenda, to existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals are not appropriate for the Citizens Forum. If necessary, the City Council may convene an executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any items on this agenda. The public forum is now open. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Carolyn Williams, and I reside here in Paris, Texas, on 44th Street. And I want to talk about the little investigation that I have found out about. Do you think it's right for us as a citizen to give the police our Social Security number? I addressed the City Council last time about that, and Robert Turtle has been doing the investigation, and he gave me 2 possibilities. He said long time ago the Paris police were supposed to ask you for your Social Security number, but he said they don't do it no more. And I don't know how long ago that's been, but he said they used to do it. And also, he was telling me that they investigated the police that asked me for the Social Security number, and he's saying that I volunteered and gave the police my Social Security number. Giving someone your Social Security number can cause a lot of problems. I didn't like that, but if I didn't give it to the officer, I was going to jail that night. And another issue I have is for them mowing my lot. I have a lot right next to me that way worse than mine, and they didn't do anything about that. And then the lot, they want to charge me all this money, and come to find out they mowed the wrong lot, which I didn't pay them. They told me I still had like 2 weeks. But I want to say that to say this: that is wrong. If the lot is high, it's high. If it need mowing, it need mowing. But please, you ought to know who lot you mow so they can pay for it. And I'll be willing to pay for it if it was mine, but it's not my lot. But it goes on to your property. They put it onto your property. I forgot the word for it, but I don't want that on mine. A lien on your property, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anyone else? Okay, the citizens' forum is now closed. Consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the council with such approval applicable to all items appearing on the consent agenda. A council member may request any item to be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. Does any member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion? If not, there's a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Regular agenda, item number 16. Presentation of awards to the police department, fire department, and EMS department recognizing exceptional service.
Thank you, Mr. Hello? All the way up, right? Hello? Yeah, oh, there you go. I got it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for this time. My name is Tom Milson, and I'm the current president of the River Valley chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. Let me get this up right quick so I can read here. The Sons of the American Revolution is the largest male lineal organization in the United States, consisting of 50 state-level societies with more than 500 local chapters. We are here tonight to honor 13 individuals who have demonstrated outstanding service to the citizens of Paris, Texas. These honorees have been nominated by Fire Chief McMonagle and Police Chief Richard Salter, and there will be 6 categories this evening that we will be basically giving these medals to. If you look in your program that we passed out, I apologize. I thought 60 would be enough, but obviously I underestimated that. But if you'll see on the inside cover, the first page, it talks about the award criteria for the medals here: the Fire Safety Commendation Award, Emergency Medical Services Award, Law Enforcement Commendation Award, Life Saving Award, Heroism Award, and then Bronze Good Citizenship Award. So with that, we are honored to be here, and again, just overall, for all of the police and the firemen that are here, thank you so much for your service, and we all appreciate everything you do for us. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Fire Chief McMonagle.
Sorry, got it.
Oh, you got it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, thank you for having us here tonight. The first honoree we want to honor is Captain Drew Boren. He's receiving the Fire Safety Commendation Award tonight. Captain Boren, would you join me up at the front, please? Captain Boren is a constant source of inspiration for the firefighters in the Paris Fire Department. His attention and dedication to duty goes far beyond just working his normal shifts and just doing his normal day-to-day duties. In the past year, he attended paramedic school of his own accord and on his own time. He passed and achieved National Registry of Emergency Medical Technician certification on the first attempt. That's no small feat. In addition to attending school outside of the daily duties, he's also our lead SCBA technician for the entire department, making sure that Paris firefighters always have a safe and reliable source of breathing air that's crucial to our firefighting efforts. He's also a member of the Paris Fire Department's wildland firefighting team, and he was most recently deployed to West Texas, where he spent a lot of time out there helping those folks in need. He was on the front lines there, and there was a lot of devastation and destruction, as you're all aware of. He's also an outstanding public servant, a leader, a firefighter, and just a person in general who contributes daily to the safety and well-being of our community, and we're really honored to have him. Thank you, Captain Boren.
Present you with this outstanding contribution to human life and property by preventing injuries or casualties due to fires. And here's your medal. And if he says it's okay, you can wear it proudly on you. Thank you. Yeah, this, you get the balancing out. Can you look up at the camera here? Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Our next honoree is Deputy Chief Kelly Newman, who is receiving the Emergency Medical Services Award. Deputy Chief Newman, will you join me at the front, please? Deputy Chief Newman contributes daily to the success of the City of Paris Emergency and Medical Services. She's currently assigned as a shift commander over B shift. She ensures that her people are properly trained, equipped, and motivated to serve the people of Paris and Lamar County to the very best of their abilities, no matter what the need or situation. She leads from the front and inspires not only her crews, but crews across the entire department. Deputy Chief Newman has been instrumental in bringing the Fill the Boot campaign back to life after COVID. The Fill the Boot campaign, for the folks that don't know about that, is it partners with Salvation Army, Casa for Kids, Children's Advocacy Center, and many other organizations to buy Christmas gifts for Lamar County children and to provide comfort items for the victims of child abuse. This program that is so impactful to the children of our area may have withered and died if it weren't for her dedication and her determination to bring this back to life. She's also a founding member of a peer support group formed to assist the first responders in our area of Texas, a much-needed service that's designed to bolster the mental health of first responders and ensure that they're able to lead happy and productive lives both on and off the job. Deputy Chief Newman is the very personification of a public servant and a servant leader dedicated to the health and well-being of our citizens and our personnel. We're honored to have you. Thank you.
He says it's okay. Wear it under your bar probably. Let's get it. Get a picture. Good. Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, Police Chief Richard Salter will come forward.
Good evening. I'd like to ask Captain Thompson to come up. We're just doing a little different. The captain from each respective division for these employees, these awardees, are going to read the citation. I'll introduce the awardee, bring them up, and some of them I'll read, but Captain Thompson's got the most of them. The next honoree is Sergeant Dustin Calhoun, who is receiving the Law Enforcement Award. Sergeant Calhoun, could you please join us?
During the early morning hours of September 29th, 2023, a hit-and-run accident occurred in 3900 block of Lamar Avenue, which resulted in the death of an 81-year-old pedestrian. The only actionable lead was a mirror left at the scene by the striking vehicle. This mirror was attached to a 2006 through 2010 Hyundai. Officer Calhoun, who is now Sergeant Calhoun, through his own initiative and in his spare time followed up and through good police practice worked identified witnesses who were familiar with the person who drove the striking vehicle, who was eventually identified by Officer Calhoun as Rodney Willis, a local radio station disc jockey. They provided Officer Calhoun with a secondary vehicle description of a van that Willis drove on occasion to Scooter's Coffee, a white, older model van resembling a radio station van. On October 2nd, 2023, while Officer Calhoun was checking the address of all known gray Hyundai Sonatas registered in Lamar County, he noticed a van fitting the description provided by the witness and stopped it on a traffic violation. It was at this time that he identified Willis and the vehicle that was registered to the local radio station. Through his interactions with Willis, he observed Willis to be nervous. He checked his historical records for interactions with Willis and discovered that Willis had a previous arrest for a DWI, which he was driving a gray 2016 Hyundai. Officer Calhoun then coordinated with Sergeant Foreman, who went by Willis's house and discovered the 2016 gray Hyundai that was ultimately identified as a hit-and-run vehicle. Officer Calhoun's investigative skills and his very savvy interview skills was pivotal in solving this fatal hit-and-run case.
Thank you so much. This is the law enforcement medal, and it says, in recognition of outstanding and dedication to the maintenance of law and order. And this is the law enforcement medal. And again, if he says it's okay, you can wear it on your uniform, okay? Thank you so much.
Okay, the next honoree will be Detective Lieutenant Lee Foreman, who is receiving the Law Enforcement Award. Detective Foreman, could you come up? Is Captain Murphy here? Okay, I got this one. I'll do this one. Oh, go ahead. You wanna do it?
On 3/1/2024, the Paris Police Department announced the arrest of David Paul Cady for the brutal murder of Mrs. Mary Margaret Searight, who was 81 years old at the time of her murder. Mrs. Searight was brutally beaten inside her home at 711 Pine Bluff in Paris, Texas on August 18, 1996. David Cady was initially considered a person of interest due to unexplained injuries to his right hand and inconsistent explanations about the injury. Investigators at the time obtained a swab of Cady's injured hand. Mrs. Searight was airlifted to Baylor Hospital, where she later succumbed to her injuries 3 days later on 8/21/1996. In September 2023, Paris Police Detective Lieutenant Lee Foreman, his strong work ethic, dedication, and commitment to excellence paid off when he took the initiative to review the evidence in a 28-year-old unsolved murder case and submitted swabs taken from Cady's right hand to the Texas DPS crime lab for DNA analysis. The results of this analysis indicate a very high probability that Mrs. Searight's DNA was present on David Paul Cady's injured right hand on the day of the aggravated assault. Cady is currently incarcerated in Hopkins County Jail on unrelated felony charges and will be charged formally by the Lamar County District Attorney Gary Young in the very near future for the murder of Mrs. Searight.
Same occasion, and again, very beautiful medal. Thank you. Hope they'll let you wear it.
That's,
There you go. Let's see if we can hold it this way. You hold that. Okay. There you go. They're always just juggling act there. Oops. Okay. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
what you do.
The next award will be, the citation will be read by Captain Terry Bull. And the honoree will be Dispatcher Robin Cannon. If you could come up here and join us, Robin. I'm told Robin does not like attention, so y'all be easy on her. And Courtney McIntyre. Courtney? And Courtney is dispatch supervisor for our dispatch unit at the police department. And they are receiving the life-saving award, and Captain Thompson's going to read the citation, and it might bring tears to your eyes.
I'll stand in for Captain Thompson since he's already stepped away. On February the 5th, 2024 at 11:08 a.m., dispatcher Robin Cannon received a 911 call from a frantic mother in Sumner, Texas, where a 1-year-old toddler had escaped from the residence without anyone realizing. The child got into a pond behind a workshop on the property. The initial caller had difficulty providing the address, so dispatch supervisor Courtney McIntyre assisted by mapping the location where Robin was working to have family members begin CPR. The child's mother was too hysterical to be able to perform the CPR, and so Robin directed the grandmother and an aunt on scene to begin CPR on the child. The child was blue and not breathing on their own when the child was pulled from the pond. Robin coached both the grandmother and the aunt through CPR, with the grandmother doing compressions as the aunt performed breaths. Robin encouraged them to keep going for 10 minutes before the child actually began breathing again and before medical first responders had arrived on the scene. Ms. McIntyre auto-launched Air Evac 139 to the scene as soon as EMS was dispatched. The child regained consciousness and was flown out to Children's Medical in Dallas. Both Robin Cannon and Courtney McIntyre did a phenomenal job taking control of the call through all the chaos on scene and were successful in getting CPR started within the first couple of minutes and keeping it going until they were sure the baby's breathing had returned and the baby was responsive. The child would not have lived had it not been for the steady, professional, and heroic actions of PPD dispatch supervisor Courtney McIntyre and PPD dispatcher Robin Cannon. Thank you.
Here it is. This is the Life Saving Award. This is in recognition of saving a human life under emergency conditions. Here's your certificate, and the medal looks like this very nice looking medal with the cross on it. There you go. And same thing for you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we need to get that put around here. Get some pictures. Thank you both so much.
I don't know how you guys didn't cry every time I told that story. Yeah. So the next one, Captain Thompson will read. It's several of our patrol officers. So if I'm going to read your name, if you'd step up here. Patrol Officer Connor Darnell, Patrol Officer Jeremy Helms, Officer Louise Paxton, and Lieutenant Shane Stone. They're all receiving also the Life Saving Award. And Captain Thompson will read the citation.
On 9/13/2023, at approximately 4 a.m., while processing a defendant in the Paris Police Department booking area, the subject became incoherent and unresponsive. Relying on their training and experience, Patrol Officer Darnell, Patrol Officer Helms, Patrol Officer Paxton, and Lieutenant Stone responded by quickly assessing the subject's physical symptoms and administered 2 doses of Narcan after directing dispatch to summon fire EMS support. After receiving the Narcan, the subject regained consciousness and became responsive again, indicating that their assessment of his condition was in fact spot on. The subject was transported to Paris Regional Health Center where he received additional medical treatment. Patrol Officers Darnell's, Helms, Paxton's, and Stone's attentiveness and quick actions saved the life of a man who would likely have succumbed to a drug overdose in the jail cell. For your heroic actions, you're all being recognized with this life-saving award. Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you all so much for here. Appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you so much. Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you. Turn around. You're fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, the next awardees, Patrol Officer Jeffrey Rico, who's also receiving the Life Savings Award. Let's see if he stays up now. And then you'll be coming back up again.
All right.
One week.
Patrol Officer Jeffrey Rico is nominated for the Life Saving Award for being the sole initial officer at the scene of a shooting. Officer Rico, who has prior military combat medical experience, administered critical life-saving first aid to the shooting victim while also controlling a frantic crowd and ensured that any potential witness remained on the scene. Unfortunately, the victim eventually succumbed to his injuries, but Officer Rico's efforts kept the victim alive long enough for his organs to be harvested and used to save the life of others. Thank you. And don't run off.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Officer Rico is also receiving the Heroism Award. There we go. During calendar year 2023, Officer Rico, for an incident where he responded to a man who climbed out on a ledge of an overpass bridge, intending to jump into the oncoming traffic below. Officer Rico, without hesitation or backup of other officers, took the individual initiative to climb out on the ledge with the man and talking him into a comforting and non-threatening manner and convinced the man to come off the bridge to safety. Thank you very much.
In recognition of outstanding bravery and self-sacrifice in the face of imminent danger, thus exemplifying the highest ideals and principles that which motivated and sustained our patriot ancestors. So with that, there it is. Very nice. Heroism medal. There you go.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Little picture, yeah. Pictures. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, last group, we have Captain Terry Buller come up and read the citation again. Could dispatchers Marina Helms and Aaron Jessamay come up for our next awardees, both receiving the Bronze Good Citizenship Award.
On Saturday, February 24th, 2024, that's correct, one day away from the last one that I read you. It was a busy month, February. Paris Police Dispatcher Marina Helms received a 911 call concerning an ATV rollover accident in a very remote area near the Red River known as the Direct Bottoms area of northwest Lamar County. The caller reported that a female occupant of the ATV was lying face down and had previously broken her back in a different accident and was injured severely from the accident. Because of the remote location, the caller could not provide a specific location or landmark. In addition, because the call came into the Paris Police Department as a forwarded call from another agency, there was no geolocation or mapping data available to determine the location of the victim. The caller literally had no idea where they were other than the direct bottoms in Sumner. Dispatcher Helms, thinking outside the box, asked the caller what type of cell phone she had used and instructed the caller on how to share her cell phone GPS data with our dispatch center, Ms. Helms utilizing her personal cell phone, which enabled her to determine the exact location of the victim so that she could then dispatch air evac, ambulance, and other medical and law enforcement responders to the location. Ms. Helms, with the assistance of dispatcher Aaron Jusom, were able to have the air evac launched within 6 minutes of receiving the 911 call. Dispatcher Jusom, overhearing Ms. Helms' conversation with the caller, took the initiative and began calling air ambulance companies to put a helicopter on standby, which turned out to be a good thing because the Air Evac Communications Center spent approximately 8 minutes locating an available chopper, since the closest one was unavailable. The closest Air Evac helicopter ended up coming out of DeQueen, Arkansas, with a 35-minute ETA from launch. Due to dispatcher Aaron Jusom's request, their response and continued calling other medevac companies to see if they had any closer assets that could respond. Without Aaron's self-initiative, this response time would have taken from 10 to 20 minutes more time. Thank you.
Yours? Oh, no, yours? Watch out now, I get confused. Again, this is Good Citizenship Medal in recognition of notable services on behalf of our American principles. Got it? Thank you so much. So all I got to say is wow. You know, so I've done more than one or two of these before. You've got a, wow. You've got a great team here, I tell you. I'm going to tell something about this guy right here. He sent me a couple of them, you know, and then he said, I got a few more, and he sent a few more to me. And then I think the next email, as I recall, was something like, I'm not going to run you out of medals, am I? And I said, no, sir, you're not going to run me out of medals. You just keep telling me who you think deserves these medals. So that's how we ended up with a total of 14 medals tonight. But thank you so much for taking your time. We really appreciate it. And we hope to make this a regular event. And like I said, you ought to be very proud of your police and fire departments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. We have, I just would like to get the two awardees, I don't know if it passed everybody, but their husband and wife, Jeremy and Marina Helms, come up and take a picture together with us. Come on.
Come on. What a family. Thank you so much.
That's all we have. That's all that concludes the award presentation. Thank you.
Didn't get to. Didn't get to say anything.
Sun went down now. It feels
Appreciate
cool
too,
in here.
You know, saying it when they're gone.
No, I haven't seen him do it before.
Water in the chambers. Water, I say.
I think he's the guy that does that.
Take too long now. I hate to gavel him, but I will. I don't want to do that.
That's him.
Yes, Rob. So take that outside, please, sir.
Get him in order.
Still at a meeting. I'll take care of yourself. Hey, you know what I have to say. What the hell's a police report?
Were you enjoying the hotel?
Trying to keep
It's
going.
beautiful.
Come on by. I want to show you around.
Okay.
When we open, yes, sir, it does.
Oh, you hadn't opened your party.
Where's I can get up right now?
Quiet in here now.
We're just waiting on the PowerPoint to load, so I can get the PowerPoint up there for the next item.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, sir. There's some more. You found it?
People keep moving everything.
All right, item number 17, receive presentation of the Police Department Racial Profiling Annual Report. Chief?
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Texas law requires that law enforcement agencies that routinely make traffic stops submit annual reporting of demographic data to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement and to the local governing body for all motor vehicle stops in which ticket, citation, warning was issued, or an arrest or search resulted from those stops. The law also requires that a comparative analysis of that statistical information from these motor vehicle stops be conducted with respect to the number of stops of persons by race or ethnicity, the outcome of those encounters, the number of searches conducted, and the results of those searches. For the past several years, the police department has retained Dr. Eric Fritz and Dr. Chad Trulson with the Justice Research Consultants to prepare our annual, this is for actual 2023 data, racial profiling report that we have to submit to Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. Based on the raw statistical data supplied by our department, Dr. Fritz's analysis of racial profiling compliance by the police department shows that the department is fully compliant with all relevant Texas laws concerning racial profiling, including the existence of a formal policy prohibiting racial profiling by its officers, officer training, and the educational programs, a formalized complaint process, and the collection of data in compliance with the law. And with this, I would like to introduce Dr. Fritz, who will make a presentation to the council based on the results of his report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me. I'm here this evening to present your annual racial profiling report. And just before I start, just to kind of take a step back, 2001, Texas legislature enacted what is commonly referred to as the Texas Racial Profiling Law. In that law, it requires that every time a police officer in this state conducts a traffic stop, certain information needs to be collected regarding that stop. And that list of information has grown over the years, but basically is information such as obviously the person's race, person's gender, location of the stop, what was the reason for the stop, what was the result of the stop, did the person get a citation or were they arrested, was a search conducted, if so what kind of search, was contraband discovered pursuant to the search. So that information is collected on every traffic stop. So what's being presented today is based upon 2023 calendar year data, and you had about 4,000 traffic stops during that time in 2023. And what I'm going to present is the comparative analysis the chief mentioned. And so what we do with racial profiling in this state is regarding reporting and presentations is formatted by one of two entities. Texas Code of Criminal Procedure specifies certain things, and then the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, otherwise known as TCOL, which is our licensing and training standards board in this state, sets the parameters for basically implementation of the law. So what's presented tonight is the comparative analysis required by law. First thing we do before we start looking at any data is we make sure that the agency is in compliance with the law, as the chief noted. The law requires certain things of an agency, must have a policy prohibiting racial profiling, must provide training to officers regarding racial profiling, obviously must collect certain data. They must have a complaint process, public education about the complaint process. So we make sure that those standards are met by the agency, and as they have been every year that we do the report, Paris Police Department's in full compliance with the law. What we spend most of our time doing is looking at the data. And so data is provided to us by the Paris Police Department, and what you'll see on these slides is referred to as comparative analysis, 1, 2, 3, and then a fourth analysis. That's what's specified in our Code of Criminal Procedures. This is how we're supposed to, this is the information we're supposed to provide regarding the stops. And the first one is basically a breakdown of your traffic stops by race, ethnicity, which is listed here. You had about 4,000 stops. People most likely to be stopped on traffic were white motorists, followed by blacks, Hispanics, and Asians, then Alaska Native, American Indian. All the charts, because of the low number of Asian stops, Asian motorists and American Indian motorists, all the charts that you see in the report are for white, black, and Hispanic motorists, but the data is there in the report regarding the other two racial groups. What we do then is we compare that data broken down by race to your population, and we compare it to the city and the county population. That's required by TCOL. So TCOL says take the data, break it down by race, ethnicity, and then compare it to the city and county population. And so what's presented here is, for example, regarding white motorists, 63% of the stops in 2023 were white motorists. In comparison to the population, white motorists were more likely to be stopped in comparison to their percentage in the city population, and less likely in comparison to the county population. Black motorists were more likely to be stopped on traffic in comparison to their representation in the city and county populations, and then Hispanics were less likely to be stopped in comparison to their percentage in the city population, and about almost equivalent to the county population. We provide those benchmarks, but there's serious issues regarding stop data, and so most of what we do is look at post-stop outcomes, which is where we're moving with this presentation. But a couple things to note regarding what was just presented is we do not have a valid indicator of our driving population. That's what's needed. We use population measures. There is not a valid benchmark out there. There's been research on about 7 or 8 different benchmarks. None have been shown to be valid. And so that's one of the problems. The second problem is that every traffic stop in this state since 19 since 2009. The officer notes whether or not they knew the race ethnicity prior to the stop. It doesn't happen very often in which the officer knows the race ethnicity of the person prior to the stop. The study that's cited in the report, that's a statewide number, statewide average is 2.9% of the time. The officer knows the race ethnicity prior to the stop. In Paris Police Department last year, they knew about 0.5% of the time. Why is that important? Because our state law defines racial profiling as a police officer taking an action based upon a person's race. The traffic stop is the action, stopping the vehicle, but almost always they don't know the person's race or ethnicity prior to that stop. So that's why we spend most time on post-stop outcomes. Officers approach the vehicle, identify the motorist, and now knows the person's race or ethnicity. And so that's what's presented in the next two comparative analyses, is basically what happens after the person is stopped. And so one of four things is going to happen if you're stopped by a Paris police officer. You're going to get a verbal warning, written warning, a citation, or you're going to be arrested. One of those four things is going to occur. And what this does is it breaks down those traffic stop outcomes by race and ethnicity. And so what it's saying is that these are column percentages. So of the white motorists that were stopped, 68% received a verbal warning. Of the black motorists that were stopped, 59% received a verbal warning. Of the motorists that were stopped, 70%, of the Hispanic motorists that were stopped, 70% received a verbal warning. So what we look for are a couple things. What are they? Are the outcomes consistent? And so if we look at warnings being, you have two categories of warnings, but of the warnings being the least impactful result of a traffic stop, 80% of the time white motorists are receiving a warning, 72% of the time black motorists are receiving a warning, and 80% of the time Hispanic motorists are receiving a warning. And so we look for that consistency in behavior of officers regardless of the outcome. Citations, white motorists receive a citation 12% of the time, black motorists 15% of the time, and Hispanic motorists 14% of the time. So consistency there. We usually see disparities when it comes to arrests, which you see there, and that's largely because of differences regarding the reasons for the arrest. Almost everyone that's almost combined, that's almost 98%. Almost everyone that is arrested is either arrested for an outstanding warrant or a violation of penal code, which basically means the officer has probable cause that the person committed a crime. So after looking at the traffic stop outcomes, the third thing we do is look at searches. So a subset of those traffic stops, 4,000 traffic stops, result in a search. This case for Paris PD in 2023, 14% of the time there was a search pursuant to a traffic stop. Similar type of analysis. Searches of the white motorists that were stopped, 12% of the time they were searched. Of the black motorists that were stopped, 18% of the time they were searched. Of the Hispanic motorists that were stopped, 10% of the time, of the Hispanic motorists that were stopped, 10% of the time they were searched. We look at the reason for the search. There are 5 different reasons that an officer can conduct a search pursuant to our data collection standards in this state. Most commonly, the person is searched based upon consent, which basically means the officer requests permission to search the vehicle and is granted permission or consent to do so. Second most common reason is probable cause. So the officer has probable cause to believe that there's evidence connected to crime inside of that vehicle. Consent searches are probably the most highly scrutinized searches because they are the ones in which you're receiving permission to do so. And so we separate those out there, that basically 5.7% of your traffic stops involved a consent search in 2023. Last thing we look at is what's commonly referred to as the hit rate, which is basically once a search is conducted as an officer collecting evidence. And in about half of the searches, 47%, contraband was discovered. Most of the time, that contraband, 65% of the time, that contraband was drugs. So that's what's being seized pursuant to these searches. From our purposes, statewide average is 48%, the hit rate, so 47%, it's right there. And it also shows us that regardless of the reason for the search, whether it's probable cause or consent, the officer is conducting a search and is about, more than likely, going to find evidence of a criminal offense. Last thing we look at is complaints. So part of the state law requires that there's a complaint process, public education complaint process. So the Paris Police Department in 2023 received 2 complaints alleging that an officer employed by the agency engaged in racial profiling. There's an internal investigation that occurs, and upon investigation regarding both of those complaints, they were unfounded, which basically means they did not occur. So that's the analysis that's conducted. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm glad all the officers cleared out because it was kind of rough to, I challenge this report every year that I'm here besides last year because I wasn't here, but man, it's been hard to, after giving all these awards out and then you questioning. But I'm just, you said that on citations, it goes like, I know what the demographics show, but it goes to 12% of the stops are from white motorists, 15 black, and 14 Hispanic on the citation part.
Yes.
And then on searches, 12% white, 18% black, 10% Hispanic. What makes that jump up like that? Because when you look at the overall stops, those percentages are a lot different. So what makes those numbers jump up like that?
Which numbers are you referring to?
Like, you said you focus on the results, because you don't know, there's no benchmark that tells
Right, on the population.
So you focus on the results and the outcomes. So when you get to citations, arrests, why do those numbers go up so much after you know what ethnicity the person is?
I think my question is what do you mean by goes up? What number is going up? Which one?
Well,
do you
there's
estimate?
a 15% black versus
Receive
12%
citation.
white being arrested. I mean, being citation,
Being
getting a citation.
From
And then on searches, it's 12% white, 18% black.
Right. No, I got you. Yeah, yeah. Regarding citations, from our standpoint, looking at this data and doing it for over 35 agencies, that's really extraordinary consistency. If you have 3 different racial groups and you're within 3 percentage points on citations. The other thing we look at is this is probably one of the highest, this agency is probably one of the highest percentages regarding giving warnings. I mean, almost 8 out of 10 traffic stops in this city in 2023 ended with a warning, which is what, as a motorist, you want, because that's, the least impactful thing for you. It's the least enforcement oriented. And so, one, we look at that, and there's most of the time, 8 out of 10 times, the person's getting a warning. But regarding citations and those differences there, I get there are percentage point differences, and if we went out, 1 point beyond the decimal, they could be a little bit closer, they could be a little bit further apart because it's rounded to a whole number, but it's not that impactful from our perspective at all. I mean, that's good for us. I mean, in looking at not only Paris, but just agencies in general, that close in their behavior of officers across 4,000 traffic stops, that's really good.
Right. So now, let me ask you this question. My problem with this report is we're basing it on demographics. Well, we all know, and I think you said there's no benchmark for it, we all know that everybody don't drive. And if you're keeping up with the election wars and all this crazy stuff that's going around, we understand that because of socioeconomics, black and brown people are less likely to have a driver's license. So we know that's a fact. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when I challenged this, we said that, I was wondering about the warrants. people being arrested on warrants, seems like the number jumps up. And Chief them explained that because of socioeconomics, a lot of people don't, black and brown people don't pay their warrants at, the rate that, say, a white person would. So that's the explanation. So with that being said, then it stands to reason that there would probably be a lot fewer black licensed drivers. This number that's saying demographic-wise, however many people it said, in, as far as blacks in the city, that demographic, everybody's not driving, and it's probably a lot lower number of driving. So my question to you is, and I've talked to a few officers about this that's been, in law enforcement for years, and I've questioned them on this over the last couple of years. Would it be a fairer comparison if we base this analysis off of licensed drivers in a city? Would it not?
No.
It would not.
Well, yeah.
It wouldn't change, which is what I'm asking, would it change anything, the numbers?
No, because we're looking at, we got two different, basically, data points. And so when you're talking about population, whether that is census data or whether that is driver's license or whatever you want to do, that's that first part of the analysis we did, in which I said, basically, there's not a good benchmark. And once we're done with that assessment, that goes to the side. And then we're only looking at those that are actually stopped. And so it doesn't matter what percentage has a driver's license, et cetera, because it doesn't impact the analysis, either the numerator or the denominator, neither one of them. It's basically, you had 4,000 traffic stops. We know the race ethnicity of the people that were stopped, regardless of their percentage representation in the population or percentage representation in driver's license population. It's all basically irrelevant at that point in time.
Okay.
And so we're just taking that slice and looking to see if there is similar behavior of officers in the aggregate when they stop white motorists, black motorists, and Hispanic motorists. And as we said with the citations, there's extraordinary consistency. Especially when you look at like the arrest, and you're exactly right. It's almost always the reason for the arrest and the disparity that you see there versus 8%, 13%, and 6%. The disparities that exist in the numbers almost always about differences in outstanding warrants across agencies. So we see that consistently. There's just differences across whites, blacks, and Hispanics regarding the propensity to have an outstanding warrant. And so you're spot on with that. And then regarding searches, because I know you asked about it earlier, you do have the 12, 18, and the 10%. But the nice thing that we do now, which again, data collection has kind of varied over time. We've made the list of things the officer has to collect on each traffic stop longer and longer. There's about 15 things now. And the nice thing is we know two things now we used to not know. One is, why did the officer conduct the search? And then we can see, are there differences in behaviors across searches? And so we have consent searches and probable cause searches listed there. The other thing is that, the other question is, the officers just out there kind of randomly conducting searches, for lack of a better term, or are they being strategic, either based upon probable cause or reasonable suspicion that something's quite not right, so I'm going to ask for permission to search? And are they actually finding things? And about half the times they are, which hits the state average. So from our standpoint, things look good on both the stop side and also on the search side.
Yeah, and I know all this is statistical information that, that's compiled, but, and the truth is, if an officer racial profiles somebody on a particular stop randomly, there's no data, there's no way to even log that, so you wouldn't know. And we know there's, like on any other job, things happen. And that's no different than any other job. I don't know why we expect police to be any different, because it's going to happen. We know that. But no, I was just asking those questions because it's no shot at the Paris PD or anything, or Chief Salter. It's just that people ask these questions, so they need, as a representative, they need these questions asked and answered.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Y'all enjoy your evening.
Item number 18, receive presentation regarding the work performed by the Ad hoc Downtown Traffic Committee in 2023 for the purpose of implementing traffic softening measures. Staff.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, this is kind of give you a final conclusion summary of what we did last year. Now, many of you were on the council when we did this, we started this process, so this is kind of just do a summary conclusion from the work we did. Again, wind the clock back a couple of years ago, we had worked with TxDOT to do a 90-day stop sign study of the downtown. This is in follow-up to the tool design study for the downtown plaza. So with that, TxDOT determined that stop signs were not warranted, so they denied us pursuing that. So with that, knowing that in mind, the council tasked staff with looking at other measures and means of trying to soften speed in downtown. We'd had a lot of concerns about the speed of going through the plaza, and so we met. And in your memo here, you see a large number of us, representatives from the council and staff from different departments, worked to see what ideas we could do to try to help slow traffic downtown. We use the term softening traffic. What I mean by that is trying to slow that speed down. And so with this, we met for about 9 different times throughout the year last year, and we implemented a number of studies, number of changes. And so this again, this item tonight is just to kind of summarize what we did, and also provide you a recommendation that we have identified. And also, if you have any recommendations for us, we can work on those as well. But with this, on the second page of my memo, you see a summary here. First off, I should also add that we worked with TxDOT every step of the way. So we brought them in at the very beginning because we recognize these roads are their roads, and so anything we did, whether it's speed signs or painting, we had to do in coordination with them to make sure that they were good with that. We also approached them about what their ideas were for traffic softening measures. So they gave us a list of ideas, and we explored those. So with this, working with the Paris PD, we set up a couple of, at least for sure one. At one point we had, I think, 2 of those. We had a couple of electronic speed signs. Those devices were meant to measure both count of vehicles as well as their speeds. And so we put those in key locations. Again, this is actually why it took us about 9 to 10 months to do this project, because we only had one sign most of the time. So we had 30 to 45 days per study. We had to take our time to go from spot to spot with 8 different entrances and exit points. I'll come back to that in a little bit here. We also added some vertical delineators to help in the no parking areas. We had locations where individuals were parking in the hash or gourd areas, blocking sight visibility. And so when a person would come up to a perpendicular point at the intersection, they couldn't see around a truck or a car. So the purpose of this was to try to deter people from parking in that no parking area. We eventually turned it into we call them turtle shells. You see those little buttons on the ground. That was more of an aesthetic request from the downtown merchants. They didn't like the look of the candlesticks, and so the turtle shells are again meant to prevent you from wanting to drive over them. And so we took more of a drastic turtle shell in order to encourage people not to drive over those spots there. So we installed those. We also a big thing that I feel helped a lot of traffic softening was we repainted all the lines downtown, particularly the parking stalls, and then we took it one step further. We actually boxed them in. If you'll recall, before we used to have brackets around the parking, but this time we actually boxed the parking stall in, and that actually kind of gave the drivers and the people parking they recognized their lanes, and so they can see this is the parking area, this is the driving area. And so I know me personally, when I saw that, I could see where I belong and where I don't belong when I'm pulling through there. So we had a lot of comments from individuals saying that really helped people be mindful of how tight it is, and how close quarters you are with cars parking and driving. So, and it also helped encourage people who parallel park to get next to the curb. So it's one thing when you see lines, most drivers try to get within the lines, and if they're outside the line, they will get back in the car and get in the line. At least I do, at least. So I don't like being the one who's parked over the line. So we made those changes, and we also worked at TxDOT to try to repaint the crosswalks. We had a few crosswalks that were not lined up with the ADA ramps, so we repainted many of those. In fact, I think they actually did some more painting here this last week, I believe, and so we got some more work done last week for some more crosswalk paint, so people can see where the crosswalks are, and also motorists can see where the crosswalks are. We also we added some static speed limit signs, particularly on Grand Avenue. We recognized that there were long stretches of roadway without any 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs, and so we added some static signs on that stretch to try to remind motorists what the speed is. Touching on 30 miles per hour, we did ask TxDOT if there's a possibility of decreasing the speed limit around the plaza, and made it very clear to us in Texas 30 miles per hour is the low you can go. If you are in a state park, you can go lower, but otherwise on TxDOT roads, 30 miles per hour is the lowest we can go on TxDOT roadway. So we did explore that with them. And we also, as you recall, about a year ago, we tested back-in-angle parking. TxDOT has informed us, this goes back a year or two now, that they no longer allow front-in-angle parking for any new parking stalls going in. So their only allowed parking is parallel or back-in-angle. And so we tested that. We had mixed results on that. We've not recommended any implementation of that just yet, but that is an option that TxDOT finds as a valid solution for versus parallel parking, and particularly versus front-end angle parking. On the electronic speed signs, real quick, there's a perception that cars are going fast through there, so we want to kind of test that. You've seen a memo here. I provided you some data in the memo and the attached map there. You'll see that what the actual percentages of those driving 1 mile per hour or more and 5 mile per hour or more. And you'll see that it ranged everywhere from for those who are going 1 plus miles per hour was 2.1% to 25.3%. But then when you look at those who are going 5 or more miles per hour, kind of take into account that everyone's speedometer is not digital. Sometimes if you look at the needle, you can't quite tell if you're at 32 or 31 or 30. And so we looked at those who are 5 miles per hour more, and the numbers dropped drastically. You get down to 0.3% to 7.2% was the highest at one point there. So we definitely have some who do go fast, and so the signs do record high speed limits, and there were some high speeds taken through there. But we can at least see that the 30 miles per hour does appear justified from an engineering standpoint. The vast majority of motorists are going speed limits or less. But there are certainly some that are going higher. So this kind of gets back to enforcement. And I know once we get back into higher numbers in police, we can get back into more heavier enforcement on a more regular basis. Another aspect that the signs provided, which was helpful, was called the SER, or the sign effectiveness rating. And so if you've ever approached an electronic speed sign and you see your speed limit and you see you're going faster, that typically does cause a motorist to slow down. So if it's 30 and you're going 38 and you see that, this sign will measure the point, your speed coming in and then your speed going out. And we see here that it ranged everywhere from 12% to 68% effectiveness. And so there's some instances here where the speed limit sign reasonably, it's reason to say that it helped decrease speeds. Once the person saw their speed, they realized too fast, got to slow down, and so that's what that measure, that's what that indicator was measuring. So with this, we spent about $20,000 or so last year doing this work. Is all within budget. Again, these were a lot of with financially feasible options that we were able to pursue, working with our committee to do that. And so we do feel that this has made a positive impact. Has it solved it? No. Unfortunately, you cannot take the driver aspect out of the equation. And so there's only so much you can do to counter drivers' habits, a person's decision behind the wheel. But we do feel that this has made an impact on the downtown, positive impact for softening traffic. We do at least have one recommendation for the budget. We do feel that purchasing some more of these electronic speed signs would be appropriate and putting them in key spots, again, to help show drivers what is your speed coming in and hopefully encourage them to slow down. And then, of course, an ultimate solution would be, as we get more police officers on staff, having more patrols through not just the downtown, but other key areas that we've noticed across town that we see drivers who do tend to go a little faster than the speed limit. That's just a quick summary of what we did last year, and so I'll take any questions you have or any thoughts or concerns.
Any questions?
I got one question on the two-way traffic
whatever happened with that?
With working at TxDOT, that was a bit out of our control. That was going to be a very costly venture, and so as a committee, we did not study that. We focused on things that were determined to be financially achievable quickly. Working at TxDOT in the first meeting, we realized that anything two-way traffic was going to be a long-term, very expensive project. So our focus was not that. We focused on more immediate, short-term solutions. We can definitely work on that. It just wasn't the focus of our committee at the time.
I'll say being a part of that committee and kind of seeing everyone come and really think and challenge each other to figure out what's the best way to go about enforcing, a way to slow down the traffic. And hearing from the business leaders downtown and some of the patrons downtown, this was a tough task, but I just want to say thank you to the city staff that really tried to, figure out and understand, what are the things that we can do and can't do. We learned a lot from that exercise, and I do appreciate that. And I hope that we can continue to evolve to get safer. I know we're within boundary and limit fiscally, but I think that we've come to a good understanding and agreement at the moment to figure out, this is probably the best way to go. So I appreciate everything. Yeah. It's been good.
Any other questions? Item number 19, discuss and act on cancellation of the second meeting in May due to Memorial Day holiday and possibly seeking another meeting date. Staff?
Okay, second meeting in May is on May the 27th, which is a holiday. Staff is recommending option 1, which is canceling the meeting. We've already been planning it in advance. However, there's an option 2 listed that you all could choose another meeting date if you wanted to reschedule it.
I think they should have to reschedule it. Maybe 2, I don't know.
You'll have plenty of extra meetings this summer during budget.
So what is the direction of the council, that we just schedule a meeting and not, cancel the meeting and not reschedule?
I think we should cancel it.
Okay.
And not reschedule.
I agree.
All right, the direction of the
A
council.
motion. We need a motion, please.
I make the motion that we cancel what day is it?
May 27th,
May 20, what?
7th.
27, somebody saying 25.
27th.
27th, May 27th meeting and not reschedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay,
Thank you.
motion carries 7-0. Okay, item number 20, discuss and act on the key to the city policy and select the third council member to join the mayor and mayor pro tem as a selection and awardee committee. Staff.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This is an item that was championed by Mayor Hughes with Mayor Pro Tem Ponkage, and so I've done some of the research here. And please, both Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, jump in at any point here if you'd like to speak more on this. But this is a new policy for the council to consider the granting of the key to the city. We have about 17 keys that were ordered by Dr. Hoshmi. He was mayor for the council, so Mayor Hoshmi about 5 or more years ago. We still have, again, like I said, 17 of those keys on hand. And so Mayor Hughes approached me with the request of looking at sample policies from other communities. How do other communities approach the process of handing out keys? And so in front of you have a policy that it's a combination of many different policies. We took the best of a lot of policies for this. Now with this, the recommendation here is that you would authorize the mayor pro tem, and a third member to act as a discretionary entity to select individuals for this award. The intent is to make this a surprise at the Lamar County Chamber of Commerce annual banquet. And now, other options, of course, is the city council as a whole could select a person. Now, this is not executive session worthy, and so this would be something that you'd have to do in open public. Another option, in some cities, they have the mayor alone as with discretionary authority. So we tried to blend the two options of having a subgroup, a non-quorum based council committee making this recommendation and then awarding that person or entity in the Lamar County Chamber of Commerce banquet. And so any questions you have about the policy, I'd be happy to answer those.
What's the current policy?
We don't have one.
We don't have one? So what do we do?
We've not given one out.
In the past, what has been done? Does anybody know?
It was Dr. Hashmi who.
Well, even before
incorporated
him.
it. Yeah, we couldn't find anything, could we?
Honestly, I did not look beyond Dr. Hashmi.
Yeah. So my thought on, and this is just me, on keys to the city, when you look at the history of it, it was, goes back to the, 14th century or something like that. You actually gave people a key to the city so they felt welcome, could get in and out, and they were visitors. So in my 58 years, when I see key to the city, maybe on TV or something, it's a dignitary or honored guest that's not in the community that receives the key to the city, in essence welcoming them and making them honorary guests for the day on the keys to the city. So this policy is basically talking about a citizen. To me, a citizen don't need a key to the city. If we want to give them a Citizen of the Year award or something like that, but then we could do it, and we're giving it out at the chamber banquet, who is already given I can't remember, Volunteer of the Year award, and then Industry of the Year, and all these awards. So I think if we're going to do a Citizen of the Year, that's what we should do. And because this is why I'm saying that, the key to the city, so like if you had some dignitary come to Paris, well, surely you would want the mayor to give that dignitary a key to the city. That's what you would want to do. So this policy is pretty much designed to give it to a citizen for an outstanding achievement. And to me, like I said, that's a Citizen of the Year award, not a key to the city. I think that should be, like I said, given to guest or some dignitary that shows up, and you hand them that key to the city and welcome them with the key to the city. But that's just my opinion.
I think the thought process was more along the lines of, hey, there's a lot of people who deserve awards within our community. There's a lot of folks that go out and do a great job within our community.
Yes.
But this was, I think, seeing that this was a good opportunity to be able to say, you know what, hey, person X, you've done a fantastic job. And these are people who probably don't ask for that notoriety, right? They don't, but yes, we have a lot of dignitaries that come in and out of our community, but for those that give within our community, and you're right, having a Citizen of the Year award is a great thing, but this is one of those things to be prideful because it's a key to the city of your town, right, of your community and what you've invested in. And it gives them a chance to feel like, all right, I got some recognition, even though they don't ask for it, right? And so those are the preliminary discussions that we had just as a background for that. But I see your point. I mean, I get your point.
And I certainly understand the meaning behind it, because I did look it up, but I was just trying to figure out a way that we could use the keys and also, award citizens of this city who's been doing a great job. And it is certainly a council's discussion. It wasn't something that I personally wanted to do by myself or anything of that nature. That's why we're bringing it forth now, just to get your inputs on it.
Yeah, so, and I guess what I'm saying, man, the key to the city, to me, really, it's an impactful thing, to me.
Right.
And so it's not, giving it to a citizen is not necessarily watering it down, but what I'm saying is it takes away from the impact. So if we give citizens the key to the city, then when someone, I don't care, it might be Prince Harry, shows up, of course, you want to give him the key to the city. Well, you're giving him the same thing that you give a citizen every year. So that kind of waters it down to me. But that's, like I said, I'm only one member of this council. That's just my opinion.
So is that something that would be awarded yearly, or just whenever there was a?
No, it was at our discretion, whatever we, as a council, determine how to. We drafted some information of it. It's not written in stone by any means.
Yeah, in the policy it says yearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current draft, again, this is the draft. The current draft would say it'd be annual. If there is a worthy individual or entity found that year, or multiple people or entities, and we did it at the Lamar County Chamber of Commerce banquet. That's kind of a known banquet each year that they do a lot of recognition. So we thought we would join their service.
You have a milestone like 100-year, or 50-year, or something for a company, that would obviously probably have a headquarters somewhere else. I would see it there. Or
yeah,
if you had a police chief that had been here for 25 or 30 years, or, you know, something of that sort as retirement coming out, or, you know, I don't know, I'm thinking. I'm kind of understand what Councilman Savage said too. It needs to be pretty high mark, I think.
I mean, we agree with that. I mean, just looking for
I
some
don't know if it needs to be
ideas.
just somebody outside the city too, 'cause you kind of think about, I was thinking about, when we were, and then now the whole dynamics have changed and politics and everything's different now, but when Rudy Giuliani got the keys to New York, whenever he retired, or whenever they had the commencement of the September 11th monument type deal, you know, heck, he was the mayor, you know, but obviously was a big piece of the September 11th deal, so.
And to that point, that's what I'm saying. It should be very, very impactful to hand out the key to the city. That's why, and you know, you just don't want to hand it out every year to the Citizen of the Year. I mean, we could create a Citizen of the Year award for that.
I think we've had these keys for 7 years without anything having been done, without anyone getting them. I'm fine with the committee, and they can decide to have a person inside the city limits or a dignitary, but we haven't done anything, so I think we just need to actually hand some of those out. So I'm in favor of having the committee, and they can decide whether it's a citizen or a dignitary at that point.
Like Rudy, I think it could be both.
Right.
If it is an impactful.
Impactful, right.
You know, not just.
Hand them out.
Okay, who are we gonna elect this year?
Right.
You know,
Make it a chore.
yeah, just if it fits, if the key fits. But I think either or, but I agree with the impactful part.
I will agree with that.
So can I suggest this? Since it's nothing that we have to do right now, can we table this and revise it because of some of the information that we've gathered here and just come back later?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion that we table, what is that, item 19? Item 20, item 20.
We think about who would want to be on the committee in that process while we're tabling it.
Well, we're going to table it, so we haven't passed it, so that we can't foresee that we're going to have a committee and it hadn't been passed yet.
Is there any work that you need staff to be doing on this?
Well, I think y'all heard, you know, everybody's talking, so I don't know. What do y'all want to do?
Well, I just want to make sure, so you're tabling it. Are you want to come back to revisit the language, or would you like us to bring back alternative language?
I think alternative, what do y'all think?
Because I can definitely reword the eligibility section for dignitary, and I can bring that back.
So let me ask you this, and I guess this is a Stephanie question. If you change the language, can you send that to us to look at or discuss in our monthly meetings or something like that?
As long as a quorum of you don't talk about it together, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so,
I would. This is a ceremonial matter. I prefer the council discuss this
Okay,
together.
that's fine.
I'm happy to draft whatever, but again, this is strictly a ceremonial function. I rather just assist in the drafting and not necessarily guide this so much.
Okay.
So.
all right. Well, I make a motion that we table item 20.
I think in rewording this, maybe take out yearly. And then, because I've been a part of, like at Paris High, being on the school board there, every year they were selecting 3 people, and it just watered it down.
Yes.
So bad. So take out yearly and be emphatic about impactful.
And also, wouldn't we want to take out, it's just an individual, not in town, out of town, not even make that distinction?
Yeah. We can revisit the eligibility section to kind of make it more global.
Okay, now can I make the motion?
Yes.
All right, it's okay. I make the motion that we table item 20.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. All right. Motion carries. Item number 21, discuss and act on a resolution amending the Paris Economic Development Corporation's bylaws, eliminating term limits for members of the Board of Directors. Staff. Ms. Maureen.
On someone's staff.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'm here tonight to ask for your support in an amendment to the PEDC bylaws. You should have received a memo from me along with the proposed bylaw amendment that was approved by my board of directors on March 19th. The PEDC has a policy review committee, and that committee has been meeting for a couple of years now. Mark Homer, who is here with me tonight, serves on that review committee. Last year, this committee was tasked with evaluating succession planning specifically for the PEDC Board of Directors. So when the committee embarked on this task, it became evident pretty quick that our existing bylaws restrict the organization's capacity to preserve expertise as well as leverage board members' contributions due to the established term limits. Our bylaws currently restrict board members to only 2 consecutive 3-year terms. So the amendment we're proposing aims to remove that limitation, permitting board members who have served a full term the ability to reapply. We believe allowing board members an opportunity to apply for subsequent terms is beneficial to the organization for a number of reasons. I'll be brief, but one, right, continuity and stability, allowing board members to continue serving helps with the continuity and stability of the board's strategic direction and oversight. 2, valuable expertise, so allowing board members to continue serving helps with allowing board members to cultivate deep institutional knowledge and preserves that intellectual capital for the organization and the staff. 3, succession planning, so this would afford us greater flexibility, right, in transitioning board members that have served off, as well as leadership development, and then performance. We've observed that board members often spend their initial term, right, getting up to speed with all the nuances of the organization, economic development, oversight, policies and procedures in place, open meetings and records act, and then that second term is when they actually are able to really capitalize on that knowledge and utilize it, right, in decision-making and support. So this would obviously maximize their value and contribution to the organization. So in light of all of those considerations, we are respectfully asking for your approval of an amendment to our bylaws. I want to say, as a last thing, there is precedence for this type of amendment to EDC bylaws. A lot of economic development corporations across the state do not rigidly, right, have these limit of number of term limits in place. Those that have a similar amendment have reported greater board member expertise, continuity, all of those elements we've looked at in making that determination. So, and finally, while it would amend our bylaws and allow board members to seek reappointment, at the end of the day, that's council's appointment. It's your decision. So it honors that current process in place. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'd also like to invite Mark to make comments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. First, before I even start, let me ask, in the years that I have served, I have learned you can talk something to death. Do you want me to continue? Because I don't want to hurt the policy. So I come to you today as a member of the PDC, thanks to you, but more specifically, as Maureen said, a member of the Policy Review Committee. You know very well that earlier, I guess last year, we brought some policy changes to you, and you graciously accepted those. We had not, while we did discuss the issues of our continuity and the term limits and that, we didn't address it at the time. But recently, it had become abundantly clear to us that we were going to have an incredible turnover on the boards. Dr. Hashmi rolls off this time, and then next year, would that be our 3 longest tenured members would roll off. So we would have 4 brand new members in 2 years. So this got us to thinking, well, what can we do? Right now, it's we have our setup. It's you appoint 2, then 2, then 3. Well, could we split to 2, 2, 2, and 1? Well, no, that didn't work, because when that 1 came up, the first 2 would be coming up, so you'd still have 3, and it just never worked out to where you could have a good system where they rolled off, and you keep your continuity, keep your institutional knowledge, and keep things going. So that's when we came up that we thought the best idea would be to just remove the term limits. And as Maureen said as well, and I do believe, it doesn't diminish any of your power, it actually strengthens that, because right now you're limited to appointing people on the PDC to 2 terms. You cannot appoint beyond that if you'd like to, and we're asking you to allow yourself to do that. I'm here today also to speak because I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to speak to this, because as most, if not all, you know, several years ago I did serve this county and 4 other counties in the Texas legislature. That post was not a term limited post by statute, but it is by vote. As I learned very well in 2010, that while y'all let me serve 6 terms in 2010, you said that's enough, you're out of here, and I was on my way. So we're just asking that you allow the same thing for the PDC and allow that continuity to continue. Any questions?
Or is there any questions for Mr. Homer or Maureen?
Thank you.
Just have a comment. So I was at the meeting whenever they voted this in, and talked with Maureen and a few of the EDC members at length about it. I think it's go back 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when we had a little bit of non-continuity and we had some issues there. We've obviously, the EDC has done a 180 since Maureen took over in the new boards there. Performance was the big issue that we had with the EDC actually performing. I'm not saying it was totally diluted to having new members there all the time, and basically you're in training with 2 or 3 of the members for the first term that they're there. I think it's huge. It takes to get the industry guys, the financial guys, to get good minds in there, and for them to be able to work. I think continuity is huge. I think it's big for the industry guys. Some of these projects y'all are familiar with that we've been working with for 3 and 4, maybe even 5 years. Here was on one of them that was when you were on the EDC, and then we finally got it pushed over the finish line. I think it was 5 years from the initial meeting. I think it's huge. I think it's forward thinking. I think it's obviously performance wise, when they come up, if there's a member that doesn't perform as well as others, or maybe there's a change of the guards there on one of the members, I think this body right here has the ability to do that. So I'm all for it.
Is there any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to make a final comment. I think we've been very impactful, and so we would greatly appreciate if you would support us in continuing to be impactful.
Yeah. She needs the key to the city.
There's one. If there is no other discussion, will I hear a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, motion carries 7-0. Congratulations. Item 22, discuss and act on a resolution waiving interest on a dangerous structure abatement lien on property described as City of Paris Block 39, Lot PT2, located at 239 Northeast 2nd Street, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents. Mr. Path.
Yes, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Back in June of 2006, the City of Paris, we demolished a structure at 239 Northeast 2nd Street. We applied a lien on the property in the amount of $1,350.30. That lien has remained on the property until today. Mr. Jeff Faber has approached my office requesting that the city consider waiving any or all of either the principal or interest on the lien. He took ownership of the property back in 2 months ago, February 5th, 2024. He bought it from the person who had it for about 20 years prior to that. As he recognized, he had not done a title search on the property at the time when he bought it. He took the person's word for it. Now he's trying to sell it himself, but the title search has been done and they've discovered the lien. With this, he currently owns this property and 3 others to the immediate north. If you look at that block there are 4 properties that encompass the entire northern half of that entire block. He's attempting, what he tells me, he's attempting to sell them all as one individual wants to develop it all. He mentioned a restaurant. We've not dug into those details with that person this time here, but they are attempting to develop it. Looking at some past practice of the council, as you recall, structure liens are the purview of the council. The city code has tasked me with handling nuisance liens, but as structure liens, city council are the authority on determining whether they will waive anything at all for a structure lien. So with this last year, we did have 2 other structure liens come before the council back in June 12, 2023. Mr. Faber actually brought the property to the immediate north, which is 245 Northeast 2nd Street. That time, that property had over $3,000 in principal. That's, again, principal is how much we actually spent doing the project. Interest, we collect 10% per annum on the principal every year after that. So at that point, there was over almost $12,000 in interest accrued. And so the city council went ahead and waived the interest in that property because it's only valued at $4,000 according to LCAD. Now, we had another instance in September 11th of 2023. We had another individual approach us at 1567 South Main Street. That property, the principal was about $1,500. They had an interest of about $6,000 or so. They also had civil penalties of $47,000. City Council decided to waive half the interest because while the value of the property was $1,130, they were selling it for over $9,000. So City Council determined that in that situation, given they were selling for far more than the property's worth, that it was appropriate to get the principal and half the interest. So we collected $4,500 in that situation. So now with this situation here, Mr. Faber, again, 239 Northeast 2nd Street, is valued at $2,000 according to LCAD. The principal is $1,300. Interest is about $6,000. A total value between principal and interest of $7,236.17. We have learned from Mr. Faber that he should be making $9,000 in the sale of this property, $57,000 in total for the 4 properties. With this, now I will also add to this, if you recall, if you drove by the property 6 months earlier, you would notice it was heavily wooded. The property was overgrown with not just grass, but grown trees. And so if you go today, you see that he has done some considerable work to clear the property. He has cut down the number of trees to a much more manageable number. So he's got the property ready for development. He did not give me a number exactly for that amount. At least nothing that I could verify for that he has spent on that project. But again, his goal is to convert all 4 properties into a developable northern block for that section there. So with this, he is requesting that the City Council waive anything that you're willing to waive. Going back to our precedent sets here, I would recommend that you at least collect the principal, because again, that is actual money the taxpayers have spent on the property, so that would actually follow suit with our precedent. We've done the last 2 projects. You've collected the principal in both instances. And again, as for interest, that is the decision of the council. I've given you, again, a couple of examples here. We do know what he's set to make on the property. It is worth much more than the property is valued. And so you could follow the example of the last one, where you collect half the interest or portion of the interest, or you could waive it all given the work he has done. It's completely within the council's decision. I would always add in there that what you do here can set precedent. So I just encourage you all to discuss it before we make a decision. I'll answer any questions you have.
What was the principal?
$1,350.30.
And the interest?
Is $5,885.87 for a total of $7,236.17. And the property is valued at $2,010.
That's appraisal district's got that.
Correct, yes. Yeah, that's all I have access to. We did not do a
Yeah, no, you're good.
I like the idea that what was done last is principal in half. I think that's a fair assessment.
I have spoken with Mr. Faber. He has told us he will write a check for the city to the city for this. He recognizes that something should be owed.
I've got a question just from my understanding. You said you handle all the nuisance liens?
Correct.
And then you bring the structural liens to us. When you say nuisance liens, what are you talking about?
That would be junk, rubbish, grass.
Okay,
those
so
ones.
they get fines, and then
Those are actual liens as well. In the city code, and I don't have it in front of me here, in the city code, it actually says city manager can do X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
This one here, I'm left out of that.
Okay, I was just trying to get the difference. So, on this, what's the difference in, like, if somebody owns a structure, he bought it not realizing that there were liens against it, and that happens a lot. Or if somebody is intending on buying the structure, because we've done that before as well on Washington Street. Somebody was intending to buy the structure, right? And there was not buy the structure, but buy the property, because there was no structure there, but they had intentions of cleaning it up, and we waived the liens. We said we were going to waive the liens so he could buy it, right? So what is the difference there? I mean, I guess what I'm asking you, does all of these things come before council?
Yeah, all structural liens come before council, yes.
Structural liens?
Yes,
But
yes.
if it's just a piece of property with no structure on it, does that come before council?
Yeah, again, structural lien is when we demolish the structure.
Okay.
So yeah, so there may not be a structure there today because we demolished it in the past.
Because on that property, there was no structure there, right?
I had to go back and
Yeah,
look.
I don't think it was. It was just wooded.
Well, again, if I would have brought it to the council, there would have been a structure there. No, now this one here, you're talking about the one tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a structure, yes.
At one time.
2006, we demolished it, yes.
There you go. Yeah,
Yes.
it's been years. But, okay. So I was just trying to get a clarification. But even if the property does not have a structure on, well, it's been torn down at one time.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's what you're calling a structural lien.
The matter here is that there's.
Demolition lien.
I'm sorry,
All right,
yeah,
I got
demolition
you.
lien.
I got you.
Yeah, demolition liens, the council decides. Non-demolition, which is your nuisance liens, city code tasked me with deciding.
Okay. So all of those come to us.
The demolition liens, yes,
Yes.
yes.
All right.
Most people just pay them. I don't know how often that we get these, but I've only had, since I've been here, we've only had 4 or 5 approach my office requesting that the city council consider waiving.
Okay. Just wanted a clarification because you said, we might set a precedence here.
What'd you say was 47,000? Was there a 47,000?
No, that was the last property back in September. That one had civil penalties of $47,000. It was $1,000 per day that BSC applied to the property at that time. This one does not have any of that. There's no civil penalties on this property.
I'm good with the principal and half the interest on this particular one.
Any more discussion? Or
Do we need to, there was a comment, but I can make a motion.
yeah,
I make a motion
Absolutely.
Make a motion on item 22 to accept $1,350 as principal and 1/2 of the $5,885 and said cents half of that added together to release the structure abatement lien on item 22.
Second.
That all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, motion carries 7-0. Item number 23, discuss and approve an additional $72,600 to be sent to TxDOT for the runway and taxway rehabilitation project scheduled to start early summer of 2024. Staff?
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Last fiscal year, back in September, came and presented this, requesting the 10% of the original $2.75 million that was budgeted for the runway project. Our 10% was going to be the $275. The 10% is a requirement. From the TxDOT side, we pay 10%. They absorb the 90%. It's a really good deal. But whenever I was requesting that, I did note that I may be coming again to request additional funds because the entire project got pushed for an entire year. So in between that year, we did not know what process we're going to do. Hence why I'm here tonight. So we have they did do another bid analysis. The bid did go up, so now our 10% will be $347,600. We've already paid the $275, like I said, so we're requesting $72,600. That's an additional funds. If the bids come in higher to actually do the job, more money might be required. But before we come to council again, we'll look at the overall project and see where we can cut money down for not come here again and request more funds. But on the flip side of that, if the overall project is cheaper than what it's actually coming in as, we might receive a credit. I'll say that to be transparent. Don't hold your breath on that. So, but after talking with the city manager and the finance director, we decided to pull the $72,600 from the city ARPA funds. That is, if that's approved. So the recommendation from staff is to send TxDOT the $72,600 for the runway rehab project, and that is from the city ARPA funds.
Is there any discussion?
I've got a question. How are the folks at the airport feeling about this project? Are they excited? Are they? What's the general sentiment?
So construction, leading up to construction, it's real exciting, but construction is a necessary evil. You get tired of reading the NOTAMs, and you can go this way on Monday, but on Thursday you're got to go this way to kind of avoid all the construction and stuff like that. So from personal experience, it's excitement now. By the time the project's going to be over, they can't leave fast enough. But it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So.
I got you. And the only reason why I asked, I just wanted to see the effectiveness of, when you get something new and new repairs, and people are usually pretty excited. So I'm just curious.
Well, the day after everybody leaves, they'll be really excited.
Perfect.
Yes.
Very nice.
All right, is there any further discussion?
I make the motion that we approve item 23 as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, sir. Item number 24, discuss and act on the ordinance amending Appendix A, fee schedule, Section A3.002, development and general construction and planning permit fees of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paris. Staff.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, as you are all aware, the city does have a fee schedule that we look at from time to time to make sure that it's still appropriate. The purpose of this fee schedule is to offset using tax dollars to fund development projects. As always, the goal is to set fees that are reasonable and lessen the burden for the taxpayers. Staff has reviewed the current fee schedule, and we have recommended changes. Some have increased a little, some have decreased a little, some have been added, some have been deleted. And you can see in your packet, you have the entire list. Rather than go through all of that list, the ones that are highlighted in red, there are editor's notes that do the justification or validation of our recommendations. And I would be happy to answer any questions, and if I can't answer them, we have staff here to help as well.
All right, there's any discussion? All right, will I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 24 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, sir. Item number 25, convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in deliberation and on meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. The time is 7:19 PM and the city council is convening an executive session. Time is 7:30 PM and the city council is now in open session. Item number 27, no action taken on that. Item 27, consider and approve future events for city council and/or city staff pursuant to resolution number 2004-081. I want to remind everyone that this council reception for Mr. Pilgrim is this Thursday, April 25th, from 4 to 6 PM at the Love Civic Center.
Isn't the coffee thing, coffee with cops? Isn't it the
That is the
25th from 3 to
same
5?
day from 3 to 5
Yeah.
at Paris Coffee.
Well, I just like to, I guess you're talking about future, right? Hey, keep that going with what the police and the firemen, the first responders did tonight.
Yeah.
Because
That's cool.
a lot of that stuff, you don't see it on social media, you don't see it covered in the newspapers, the details of what these people are doing, all the way down to the dispatchers. You know, I think they just answer the call, but they save lives. So that was huge to me. So
Absolutely.
I just think we need to keep that going. That was really cool.
Yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Tom Milson and the fire department, EMS, and the police department, but they kind of scattered, but I understand that. But I agree with Councilman Savage on that. They just put in work day in and day out as first responders, and those stories were very impressive to hear. Is there anything else? Mike, we hear a motion in a
So
second
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.